Skill 37, Standard Form. The goals of this lesson are to write and graph linear equations using x and y intercepts, and to write linear equations in standard form. The x-intercept is where an equation will cross the y-axis, and the y-intercept is where the equation will cross the y-axis. So the key concept for today is the standard form. Standard form is written as ax plus by equals c, where a, b, and c are constants. A, b, and c are constant. And the x and y are your variables that you will always have in your equation. Now, we can do lots of things with this standard form. One of the quickest things we can do is find our x and y intercepts. If we want to find the x-intercept, then all we're going to do is set the y equal to 0. And if we want to find the y-intercept, then all we're going to do is set the x equal to 0. Once we set one of the terms equal to 0, then we just solve for the other one, and that will find our intercepts. So this first intercept, the x-intercept, would be whatever the x is when it's solved, and the y is 0. And the y-intercept, the x would be 0, and then the y would be whatever it is when we solve for y. So that is how we're going to actually end up graphing these as well. So it's something we can very quickly graph. What we need to make sure that we have is to set up our standard form, our x and our y have to be on the same side. And also, the a, b, and c have to be whole numbers. So they can't be fractions. Okay, and then that would be our standard form. So standard form is very easy to use and manipulate. This first example here, we're going to find the x and y intercepts. So first thing we want to do is find the x-intercept. To find the x-intercept, we're going to set y equal to 0. Okay, so if we set y equal to 0, that means we're going to have 3x plus 4 times 0, because we're putting 0 in for the y, right there, equals 24. So once we do that, we're just going to solve for x. So this part right here is going to end up canceling out because it's 0. 0 times any number is 0. So we really just have 3x equals 24. So we divide by the 3, and x equals 8. So my x-intercept is 8, 0. And then I could graph that point if I was trying to graph it. The next one is we are trying to find our y-intercept. To find our y-intercept, instead of putting 0 in for y, we're going to put x equals 0. Put the 0 in for the x part. 3 times 0 plus 4 times my y equals 24. So in this one, similar to the last one, 0 times anything is 0. So I just have 4y equals 24. And then I'm going to divide by the 4, and y equals 6. So my y-intercept is 0, 6. And And now I have my two intercepts. Something that's nice about standard form is that once we find those intercepts, it's really, really quick to graph. So let's find our intercepts real quick on this one and then graph them. So if I'm finding my x-intercept, that means I'm going to set 0 in for my y, giving me x minus 2 times 0 equals negative 2, leaving me with x equals negative 2. So the point negative 2, comma 0 is an intercept. So I'm going to count to negative 2, 0, and I'll put a point right there. Then I can find my y-intercept by putting 0 in for x. So that would look like 0 minus 2y equals negative 2. And then I could divide by the negative 2. And x equals positive 1, because the double negative would flip that to a positive. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And that's a y, not an x. So my point 0, 1 is my y-intercept. 0 and 1 would be right there. So those are the 2 points on my graph. So now I should actually be able to go ahead and graph the line. So that would be your final answer. When graphing vertical lines, we have to remember a couple of things. Vertical lines, the slope is undefined. And vertical lines are up and down lines. So it should look something like that. If we are ever graphing a vertical line, it's always going to be x equals a number of some sort. Okay, it could be positive, could be negative, could be a fraction, but it has to be x equals a number. So if I were to try to graph x equals 3, I just go to 3, find 3, and then it's going to be a line like that. So we have a vertical line at 3, like that. If I'm graphing x equals negative 4, I find negative 4 on my graph, and then I can plot an up and down line through that point. So my graph would look like that. Horizontal lines are a bit different. Our m, instead of being undefined, the m is always 0, meaning that the rise over the run is 0 over a number. Okay, so 0 means it doesn't go up or down at all. It's just going to flatline. So our horizontal lines will look like this. Horizontal lines always have an equation of y equals a number, and there's no x. There's going to be no x involved because it's going to be like saying 0x if we were thinking about slope-intercept form. So it's always going to be a y equals a number. So in graphing this first one, y equals 3, I'm going to find where the y-axis, where is it 3? Right here. Once I find that, then I can draw my horizontal line. So my graph would look like that. This next one, y equals negative 4. So I find on my y-axis negative 4, and then I graph a horizontal line at that point. So the graph of y equals negative 4 looks like that one. Okay, now for a quick overview of all of the functions that we have looked at for linear functions. The first one was slope-intercept form. So obviously this one would have a slope, which we always call m, and a y-intercept, which we call b, and is indicated on a graph as 0, comma, whatever the b number is. Okay, so we have to have a slope and a y-intercept. And then it goes into the format of y equals mx plus b. That is our slope-intercept form. We just put our numbers in, and that's our equation. The next one is called point slope form, and exactly as it sounds, we have to have a point, x1 comma y1, and a slope, which we still call m. Okay, so point slope form is going to utilize these and our standard xy. So their point slope form tells us y minus my y1, which is the y of the point, equals m x minus the x1, which is the x of the point. So there you go. That is your point slope form. And the x and the y always have to be there in all of these equations. And standard form is where we have a x plus by equals c. Key parts about this is a, b, and c are whole constant numbers. X and y are on the same side of the equal sign. And that's what standard form looks like. As long as they're whole numbers, no fractions, and they're on the same side of the equal sign. They could be negative. That is allowed. They could be negative numbers. This standard form is beneficial when we're trying to quickly find some intercepts, because then we just put 0 in, and then it just is quickly and easily solved for the other variable. So that wraps up your standard form lesson. You should be able to now complete the homework. So I would like you to do 1 through 11 odd and prepare for a quiz.